Senator Bryan King is with us from District 5. Good morning, Bryan.
Good morning, Paul.
Can I have a loan? Is that something that you think you can give me, like a zero payment? I don't want any interest either, by the way.
Yeah, and first, Paul, I want to say when we're talking about the loan stuff, it's not that people think that when you get in the legislature and you're a public person, you're out there and everything you do, and sometimes I equate it to getting arrested. Everything you do and say can and will be used against you. But I've been on hard times in my life. Could be there again tomorrow. When it's not that we're mocking people on hard times. So when we're talking about the loan part, what we're talking about is the hypocrisy of these people. I mean, you sit here and you look at it, and I keep telling people, well, I go to the bank, but when I said earlier about the legislators, it's like real life doesn't insulate you, or being elected doesn't insulate you from real life problems and issues and mistakes, and screw-ups and bad judgments once you're in the legislature, but you're a public person, and all those things can be a pinata when those things happen to you the same way it can happen to you in real life. But the difference is the hypocrisy of these people. And I sit there and tell people now, I said, I just have operated in real life the same way I do down there in the legislature, in that when I need money, I go to the bank, okay? And if you're down there to the point that you're having to borrow money off friends and things like that, you don't need to be down there managing a $25 billion budget. And yet these people just continue to just say, and the media, they come out with enough that just throws a tidbit at that shows that, hey, we're trying to do something, but they're not digging. And that's why we've got the problem that we are. And these little stories are they're just minor things that's blowing up over the surface. And you sit there and think, I didn't know, or you could, we knew it was going on. It's been talked about. This news story wasn't anything new. They just finally had to report on something to actually make it seem like they had to do something. This has been going on for a while. But, Paul, here's the thing. Okay. I got a confession.
Okay.
All right, I got a confession. We sit here at the farm or in business, and you buy something and you think, no interest loan. No, probably this, well, we know it's built in and all that, but it makes us feel better. So when this actually broke out, I thought, how do I get one of these? Now, this is very key that all three important parts are to this, because that's the way somehow these people have operated. I can't believe they have, but, I'm a cynic. Okay, it's a no payment, no interest, no obligation loan. Okay, it's all three things. So I thought, so when I saw Jim Hendren the other day, I asked him, I said, hey, Jim, you got any money you can loan? And unfortunately, I was told no. Okay, so I did not. I'm just going to confess to the people out there that, I got weak, okay, and I thought, man, who doesn't want a no payment, no interest, no obligation loan? To me, that's like that trifecta of loans. I don't know about you.
Oh yeah, it certainly is, and I just can't imagine why Senator Hendren thought that Jake Files was good enough to get that zero payment, zero interest, no obligation loan, but the great Senator Bryan King wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know about great, but no, I was not. And think about this. At that point in time, this is why the media didn't do anything, and that the media will still never cover any of my Medicaid disclosure bills that I was saying something years ago. They won't. They just sit back and just don't. How many times did Roby Brock have Jeremy Hutchison on his show? Mm-hmm. Name one time he ever asked him any tough questions about what was going on, about what we knew has been going on for years down there.
Yeah,
okay? Nothing.
And there isn't anything. Yeah.
No, there's nothing, and they're just barely dig. But so Jim Hendren loans $4,000 $100,000 to Jake Files out of friendship. At the time, I think Jake was living in a $1.5 million home with pools and tennis courts, and flying a plane back and forth to Little Rock, and driving like an $80,000, $90,000 rig. Now, I don't know about you, but, and, hey, we like to think of ourselves as maybe at the worst being degrading cynics. Jim Hendren thinks of you as Al-Qaeda or ISIS, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And probably me too. But that's obvious. Maybe because I have terrorist affiliations is the reason Jim Hendren wouldn't give me a no payment, no interest, no obligation loan like he's done other people. I don't know. But it just amazes me how they give these answers, and I just don't see how they just sit there and go on and act like they're for transparency and they're for open, honest government. Jim Hendren has not been for that. He's actually fought it, but you will never see a news story about it, and Doug Thompson and the media will write love stories about him and Asa Bart Hester.
Yeah, it's odd that the mainstream media is doing that when, technically these people, they're Republicans, and it's really, really interesting how there is this status quo, basically, circle the wagon support for those who are in positions of power, maintaining the status quo, and you kind of got to wonder, what's really going on behind the scenes. Did you see this story over at the Arkansas Neighbors Project, where Mark Moore, exposes this in this Noble plea, I guess. Yeah,
I commented in it.
Yeah. That's right. He asked you for a comment. So you have Preferred Family Healthcare owning this nice house in Florida and this nice 5,000 plus square foot lake house in Eureka Springs. I mean, that's in Carroll County. That's in your district. And the question is, what legislators, have stayed here? You say you haven't ever stayed at this place.
No, didn't know. I mean, my dad was telling me that he thought that kind of in a Geraldism wisdom deal, he said, well, at least they stole the money, but they spent some of it back here in Carroll County. I guess if you wanted to try and find a positive out of it. But, yeah, I mean, where is that? Where is it? It has come out in court documents that possibly a lobbyist paid for John Woods' wedding reception. No digging on that. But, God, if I take a trip, remember a few years ago when I took a trip, and I disclosed it to the Foundation of Government Accountability, which I was a speaker down there at a conference. My gosh, I think there was no less than half a dozen op-eds and news stories. There was at least 6 to 10 news stories out there about how I took that. Brummett wrote about it 2 or 3 times. I mean, man, they went crazy over it, and that's fine. I mean, when I took it, I think, well, I might as well be ready to, face the music, and I did. And you know what? Where is any? You have a court document that comes out that outlines this stuff, and nothing. No digging, no asking questions. I mean, I thought that I was going to have to move to a cave in Bolivia to get away from answering questions about a trip that I reported that was okayed by the Ethics Commission well in advance of when I did it.
Yeah. And that's the whole point. Disclose. I mean, how many legislators, and come on, this is Arkansas. We know the level of corruption. How many legislators are not okay with taking cash payments? How many legislators are not attorneys that have stayed at this property? I mean, that's the real question here. Now, they're okay staying somewhere for free, but but the whole point is, have they reported it? And the answer is no, they haven't. And so, yeah, I mean, the media here, the statewide media, they have an absolute goldmine, especially those that have the access to get to some of these people to ask them questions. I mean, they have a gold mine here, a golden opportunity to expose even more corruption. And it's for the most part, it's crickets. I mean, even the loan story, even reporting on the loans, it's almost like they're reporting it because, well, we have to report this one. And I'm wondering if they weren't getting out in front of maybe some disclosures from the FBI or some U.S. attorneys in the coming weeks.
Who knows? I don't know. But, this has all been talked about. There, like I said, file bills. When you start wondering, there's a point in time there when you're down there that you think, is this really going on? I mean, I spent years wondering that and stuff. And then, you just don't want to say anything till after,
Well,
for sure.
let me ask you this,
but,
Bryan.
But we've had problem after problem after problem after problem, and yet you have those down there that are in it. You have those that either they're in with them in the inner circle to some level or something like that, and then you have the mass part that basically, some of them may say something every once in a while, but for the most part, they just keep their mouth shut. And
here's what I would say to the mainstream media that claims or likes to pretend that they are objective, okay? Giving you the benefit of the doubt for the sake of argument, let's say you're objective. How is it not news to report that the governor backed Republicans who were primarying the two senators whose bills would have exposed exactly what has been going on down there? Your Medicaid disclosure bill would have exposed all of this. Linda Collins-Smith would have prevented attorneys from being able to take money under the table to pass bills for their clients, which is what we're finding out has been going on down there.
Yeah, $500,000 named in Jeremy Hutchinson.
Yeah, named in federal court documents. How is that not a news story, the objective press, when you also have the Republican governor who is running for re-election, and by the way, this is his nephew who has been named as taking the $500,000, and the governor backs two other Republicans in a primary against the two most outspoken people for ethics reform who will not be going back in January? How is that not front page news to try to speak truth to power and to tell everybody in the state what's going on? And yet, there's no story about something like that.
Well, you go even farther than that. What about the Democrat Party and the Democrats down there? You don't hear anything about it. I mean, can you imagine if Donald Trump's nephew got a name from taking $500,000 in a court document? And I mean, it just is the whole world down there, and that's what makes it where when you speak out like you guys, you get the first thing that they need to do when you're speaking the truth or raising questions. I learned this down there. The biggest defense is they say you're crazy, you're a liar, you're wrong on the facts, even though they'll never back anything up that shows that you're not. They will, say you're a terrorist. So that's the defense that they do, and that's why Jim Hendren does what he does. And he
let me say this: it seems like Jim Hendren has been fighting against Conduit News because I think he knew eventually all this was going to come out, and that he's kind of swept up in this, whether it's the $4,000 to Jake Files or whether it's the fact that he knew John Woods was a scoundrel because John Woods tried to get a bribe from him. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that actually hurts his political credibility in the long run. But we were just exposing, the system, trying to speak truth to power. I mean, I didn't know Jim Hendren had been approached, and asked to offer give John Woods $10,000. I didn't know any of that. But as it starts coming out, it's now, oh wow, the people in charge of this whole system, in the leadership, they knew how bad it was, and they weren't doing anything about it. And only now that they're caught do they want to say, okay, now we'll fix it. Trust us, we'll fix it. Well, there's a serious trust gap there.
Yeah, and, let's even go a little farther here. What about Bart Hester? How many dirty deals does Bart Hester have to be involved in till people go, wait a minute here? I mean, he was involved in the Eccleston College deal up to his neck and wallered in it. He then turned around and it was part of the John Woods GIF part down there to that sham deal that wound up getting medical equipment back to his dad. And then now he has actually been outed. I mean, it was more of a publicist, let's get this out there before it could get worse type deal, as going around. And here's another. I'm going to have another confession in a minute, Paul. Can I have another confession?
Yeah, go
Two
ahead.
Confessions in one show. When I was Republican leader, I didn't know it was my responsibility to go around setting up GoFundMe accounts for legislators that need money. Okay, I didn't do that. I didn't know that was my responsibility, but that's what Bart Hester has been doing. And you know, where do we go with these guys sitting there running around? And I'm not, like I said, I am not mocking somebody down on hard times. I've been there before, and I've needed help, and I've had people help me before. Okay, and I'm not talking about. We're not talking about $100 a year or $200 a year. We're talking thousands of dollars. Okay, thousands of dollars. And you have Jake Files, who got a loan from a lobbyist, got another $80,000 we don't know anything about from some nursing home person, and now you have Bart Hester involved with arranging loans between legislators. So, and no more digging or questioning about it. Nothing at all. No more asking any more questions about it. So, you know, but once again, if you go out there and say something, Bart will run to Teresa Oakey and Americans. She uses Americans' prosperity to help the insiders down there. So, I mean, they just, you know, it's just amazing. And like I said, you look at the people down there, if they have a press conference, they'll stand there with them and keep their mouth shut.
Senator Bryan King, it's always great to have you on, sir.
Okay, and two confessions in one day. I didn't know it was my responsibility to create GoFundMe and accounts. And, you know, Paul, this no payment, no interest, no obligation loan stuff, I didn't know it existed out there, but the innovative people at the Arkansas legislature have come up with that. I mean, call it innovation, I guess, if you want to spin it in a positive way.
The General Assembly intra-legislator bank. I mean, I didn't realize that. I wonder if they're registered with the FDIC, you know?
Yeah, but somehow you and Conduit are out making bombs and trying to kill people.
Oh, yeah. We're turning on our own.
That is what the real news story is, how desperate and pathetic they are down there, and and the lengths and things they will go to about the people that will challenge them.
Senator Bryan King, be safe. Have a great day.
Thanks. Take care.